You don't have to be an avid watcher of the networks Fusion or Univision to be familiar with anchor Jorge Ramos. He is a longtime fierce critic of President Trump's immigration policies, including Trump's vow to end chain migration. And I am delighted he joins us from Miami. Hi, Jorge. Hola, ¿qué tal?
I'm sure you are, Laura. I'm sure you are. Thanks for inviting me.
Debemos hablar totalmente en español.
We can
Claro
do it
que
in
sí.
Spanish, si quieres, or we can do it in English.
Well, my Spanish is terrible, so I'm not going to do it in Spanish, but I'd like to practice.
But I do appreciate that you invite me. I know that we don't agree on almost anything, but I think we have to have this conversation, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And you were very nice to me after my RNC speech by saying good speech, which you probably didn't agree with anything in it. And I mentioned that in my new book, by the way, Jorge. So now this is the only thing I'm going to say nice about you the whole day. No, just teasing.
It's okay. I'm ready for you.
I'm just teasing. Let's talk about what happened today in New York. Obviously, a botched terror attack. Akayed Ullah is another individual who came to the United States as part of what's called chain migration. He was over the age of 18. He joined his parents from Bangladesh. And if he had been successful, he obviously would have killed a lot of people. He was also carrying a pipe bomb. Do you have any further hesitation about your support of chain migration policies?
Absolutely. You know, I'm not here to defend any terrorist. I think he should face the full extent of the law. My kids live in New York City and in New Jersey, so they could have been victims easily. But I don't think this has anything to do with chain migration. I think it has to do with law enforcement and with intelligence to prevent terrorism. But chain migration is really family reunification. It's been in the law since 1965. And for me, when President Trump says that he wants to end chain migration, those are code words. Trump really is saying, I don't want more immigrants from Latin America, and I don't want more immigrants from Asia.
Well,
and
Jorge,
I think it's...
let me just jump. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but let's just differentiate what he's talking about and what you're talking about. What Donald Trump is talking about is not to bar children under the age of 18 whose parents are here. That's not what he's talking about. They'll still be allowed to come in, and parents will be allowed to come in. So it's just adult children, so let me stay with me, adult children of green card holders or legal immigrants and extended relatives, which has ballooned the number of immigrants in the United States. I think today is at 61% of all immigrants who've recently come into the country are the result of chain migration. So we're not talking about minor children, spouses. We're talking about extended family members. So just so you understand.
I do understand that. Of course, I do understand that. And then, do you like to be with your family? Do you enjoy being with your family?
Yeah, but I don't have a right to go to any other country and bring my entire family. I mean, that's not a universal right to bring your aunt and uncle anywhere you want to go.
I'm assuming that you enjoy being with your family. Well, immigrants do enjoy being with their family.
Well, then they can stay in their home countries.
And I think it is unfair that when an immigrant, in this case, commits a terrorist attack or a crime, that we blame all the 40 million immigrants living in this country.
We're not blaming all the 40 million people.
What happened.
We're not doing that.
There are 40 million immigrants in this country.
We're talking about a policy.
So you want to stop...
We're talking about a policy. We're not talking about blaming illegal immigrants who are here in the country. We're talking about a policy that makes sense or not.
Exactly. This policy has been in the book since 1965.
Right. There's a lot of policies that have been in the books that are disastrous.
It favors family reunification. And basically, as a matter of fact, it was inspired by JFK. And now the fact that that's a law. Now, if you don't want chain migration, I do understand that, but you have to say
But where do you want to end it? Where do you want to end it? First cousin, second cousin, twice removed, great aunt, like how many, like the whole thing? I mean, you have a universal right to pick up your entire genealogical chart to another country.
You don't have to end it, but what President Trump is saying is that he wants to make America white again. He wants to go back to 1965 when almost 90%, of course,
when almost
90% of the population was white. It's a nostalgic view of the United States.
Chain migration would have... No, Jorge, honestly,
Sure.
La verdad. Por favor, la verdad. The chain migration applies, doesn't matter what color skin. It doesn't matter if you're from Europe, from Sweden, you want to bring in your second cousin, or whether you're from Mexico. The new policy will apply to everyone. But let's go to Kate Steinle. You haven't commented on the Kate Steinle verdict. I'm wondering what your thought was once you saw the verdict that came down where Mr. Zarate was only charged with a minor offense of possession of a firearm. He was here illegally, left the country, deported 5 times, came back. We have a dead young woman.
First of all, I'm really sorry. My condolences to Kate's family. I'm a father, and I cannot even imagine what it means to be, what it would mean to be without one of my kids. I really don't want to say anything that might affect them. Now, when an immigrant gets involved in a crime, again, that doesn't mean that all undocumented immigrants are criminals and terrorists as President Trump is trying to portray them. That is not the case. These are the facts. Immigrants are less likely to be criminals or be behind bars than those born in the United States. Those are the facts, Laura.
Jorge,
those
you're conflating. So our listeners understand.
Anything.
You're conflating
we cannot blame all undocumented
illegal.
Immigrants with
Correct?
what happened in San Francisco. We cannot do that. I'm sorry, Laura, but
Jorge,
we cannot do that.
are you conflating in that statistic legal and illegal immigrants? When you say immigrants, you're putting both together, correct?
No. Also, there are many other studies.
20...
Princeton University did a wonderful study. Let me just finish with this one because I think it's important with talking about undocumented immigrants, not only immigrants, undocumented
22% of all federal immigrants, federal prisoners are illegal immigrants today. 22% of all federal immigrants federal criminals, are illegal immigrants. That's Justice Department fact.
Yeah, but immigrants overall, and this is important, immigrants overall are less likely to be criminals or to be behind bars.
But that doesn't matter. Even if that were true, they shouldn't be here.
Because the fact is that more immigrants that you have, the less crime that you have. Let me give you another example. We know, of course, that undocumented immigration has grown from 3.5 million in 1990 to about 11.2, 11.3 in 2013. Well, according to the FBI, violent crime decreased 48% in that same period. That means exactly that the more immigrants that you have in this country, the less crime that you have. So by blaming undocumented immigrants for crime and terrorism in this country,
so Jorge,
it is completely unfair.
So you're fine with, just so I understand, sanctuary cities, even if we end up with dead Americans or Latino immigrants, or sanctuary cities should remain despite the fact that they perpetuate a situation where 1, 2, 3, a dozen people could be gravely injured at the hands of an illegal immigrant who was harbored or not turned over to the feds by a sanctuary authority. Is that correct?
Sanctuary cities are created precisely to protect immigrants who otherwise won't be protected.
But also ones that commit violent crimes. That's the problem here.
I mean, no, because
Zarate was
the trust
protected
between
by
the police and the immigrant community is really important. And crime decreases when police and communities and when immigrants collaborate. That's exactly what happens. Now, why should we blame immigrants for all the crime and the terrorist attacks in this country?
We're not blaming immigrants. We're blaming government policy that's terrible and allows people coming here who actually commit terrible crimes. Mexico wouldn't want us to send people to Mexico who some of them are terrible criminals. I'm sure that happens. Mexico doesn't like that, and I don't blame them not for liking that.
The vast majority of undocumented immigrants in this country, the vast majority,
you don't have a right, a universal right, to move to another country with your whole family or to go to another country and commit crimes. There's no universal right to do that. And somehow we've read that into our law, which to me is insane.
You're right, and you know why they're here? Because of you and me. They're here because they do the jobs that we don't want to do, because they pay taxes, they create jobs.
I did a lot of those jobs, by the way. I did a lot of those jobs. So did my parents. And my brothers.
Exactly. They're here for us. We're complicit with them.
No tengo más tiempo. So my Spanish, I'm getting better here. We're going to do it all in Spanish next time. We appreciate it. Is the Bob Mueller Russia investigation focused on the wrong thing? Former U.S. Attorney Andy McCarthy says yes. He explains.
I mean, clearly you're very upset with the referendum result. And I mean, I presume, Nick, I mean, if I'm wrong, you tell me. I mean, would you like us to rethink our decision?
Well, yes, I think Parliament should rethink the decision.
Okay.
I think, no, if we've had a referendum and it's failed, instead of being classed as a Ramona, and I'm not a Ramona, my view was the only reason why I voted Remain was to counter your bogus Brexit arguments. That doesn't make me an avid European or an EU fan. Yes, I'm a European, but some of your nonsensical sound bites, like getting our country...
I know, absolutely. We want our country back. That's what I said, Nick, all over the country. I shouted it from the top of an open double-decker on a microphone. I hope I don't have to do the same thing again. But you can't be a country, you can't be a proper nation if you can't make your own laws, surely.
Well, unfortunately, capitalism doesn't quite work like that. Capitalism is cross borders, and that's what we are, a capitalist country. And the EU is a capitalist.
No, it's not.
bloc.
It's corporatist. It's a big corporatist political club run by giant multinationals to the detriment of small and medium-sized competitors. Nick, we mustn't debate this because it's not the subject tonight, but it's fun. Nick, I would just say this to you, that for anybody out there who feels like you, that you didn't like the referendum result, didn't like the campaign, and fine, it's a democracy, we're allowed to disagree and dislike what other people say. But I would make this point to you, Nick. Those people out there who want us to rethink it, want Parliament to have another vote, perhaps some even want another referendum. All I would say, Nick, to you and to all of them, is the way the European Commission have behaved today damages their prospects of Parliament or this country rethinking that decision.
Well, all I'll say to you is you're talking absolute twaddle.
All right, fair enough, Nick. No, that'll do.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.